We're going to dive into the Thursday night matchup. The Seattle Seahawks host your Arizona Cardinals in a 58-point over-under.
Right here.
I am Big Travie, your host, and I'm joined, as always, by Johnny Game Time Hicks for these Thursday night matchups. You can find Johnny on Twitter at Johnny_Game Time. You can find me on Twitter at Big Travie TFW. Johnny, we're going to dive into the Thursday night matchup. The Seattle Seahawks host your Arizona Cardinals in a 58-point over-under. The Seahawks favored by just a field goal here. Johnny, how are you feeling about this matchup?
Dude, you might as well just call this a home game for the Arizona Cardinals, because that's basically what it's been the last few years. When we go up to Seattle, it's basically a home game for us because we win like it is our home stadium. So I expect the same result. No, in all seriousness, I'm super excited about this game. I'm a little nervous. We'll dive into these matchups, exactly what I'm seeing from the stats side of things, and but overall, really excited about this matchup. I know we are definitely excited here in Arizona about this matchup as well.
We know Whisper Nation is excited too, and if you want to join Whisper Nation, if you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit subscribe, hit that like button, and let us know in the comments below what you think of this matchup, any start-sit questions you have. Johnny, we'll start on the Arizona side of the ball, and really, I think the only big question here is what to do with this Arizona backfield. So start us off there with the Kenyan Drake, Chase Edmonds conundrum.
Yeah, so you come into last week, we had the surprising news, kind of late on Friday that, hey, it's actual real chance that Kenyan Drake gives it a go Sunday against the Bills. And, some of us, and myself included, we, selfishly, because we rostered Chase Edmonds, was hoping that, Drake would give it one more week at least and give Chase Edmonds a full workload. That did not happen. Kenyan Drake, he gave it a go. And to be honest with you, Travis, he looked pretty good. He had, 16 touches in this game, and he went for 100 rushing yards. Now, he did fumble the ball, but they put him right back in the game. They had a lot of confidence in him. I want it to be noted that he's seen at least 16 touches in every game he's played in this year. So I expect Kenyan Drake to get that same kind of workload in Seattle. I don't think that will change. I do want to give it up for Kenyan Drake just a little bit, Travis, because I feel like there's a lot of hate on him. I do want to say that Kenyan Drake, even though he has the ankle injury and he missed a game, he's still 7th in the league in rushing yards. So, you got to give him his dues. Seattle is a little bit tougher matchup. We've talked about this several times, how you want to attack them in the air, or that's where you can. They're a pass-funneled team. But like I said, he's getting 16 touches, and he's seemed to kind of figure it out, since the Jets game, that, hey, just run north and south, and you'll get a good amount of yardage, and so you just hope that maybe he can fall into the end zone and Kyler doesn't keep sniping these touchdowns. But he should have a solid day. He's a good RB2.
Johnny, so 4 out of the last 5 games for Chase Edmonds have been double-digit PPR fantasy points or more. That's got to show you that even with Kenyan Drake on the field, especially in PPR formats, you're rolling Chase Edmonds out there.
Yeah, so you look at the game script, right? And, Chase Edmonds last week played on 49% of snaps. It was the first game back with Drake. I do think that will go up, or his snaps will go down just a little bit. He did see 11 touches back with Drake. Now, I think that this is in the range, right? I think that he'll get about 8 to 11 touches, because if you're looking at this matchup, right, Travis, 58-point over-under. There's going to be points scored. Now, we'll talk about where I think the bulk of those points come from here in just a second, and the wide receivers. But I do think that if there is, I think this will be a close game, a 3-point spread. I think there is a chance that at the end of the game, there could be a last, 2-minute drive or something for the Cardinals in which Chase Edmonds is the guy. He's going to be the pass catching. And so I think he can make his day on those drives, those, when they're trying to quickly score. And so I do think that ultimately Chase is a pretty nice flex play this week.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Kyler Murray, because right now Kyler Murray is essentially having a better season so far than Lamar Jackson was having at this point last year. He's really torching the earth here as a QB1 on the year.
Oh, man. So this was one of those times when I just wish I would have beat my drum a little bit louder and a little bit harder over the summer, because I definitely was saying, quietly, I will admit that I thought this could be, Kyler's year to be QB1, and unfortunately I didn't beat my drum loud enough like I did on some other players that I might have been wrong on, but yeah, so Kyler Murray QB1 on the year, and you look at Seattle giving up the 8th most in explosive plays. You look at this Arizona Cardinals offense, 3rd in total explosive plays, and then Seattle, you always want to start your quarterbacks against Seattle unless your name is Jared Goff, in which Seattle gives up the 2nd most points to fantasy quarterbacks with 24.9 fantasy points on average. So this is an absolute smash spot for Kyler Murray.
How about those wide receivers that he's throwing to? We saw DeAndre Hopkins save his day, really put a stamp on his day last week with a monster catch to end the game there. But how are you feeling about Kirk? Is Kirk in a good bounce back spot? Walk us through the wide receiving core here.
Well, I can watch you through this wide receiver core as well, because here's where it's going to be, right? You're definitely starting DeAndre Hopkins, like you said. It's D-Hop. He's arguably the best wide receiver in the game. You also look at what Seattle's doing for the wide receivers. They're giving up the most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers at 35.6 fantasy points per game. So that also, I don't think DeAndre Hopkins is going to get all of those points. I do think that Christian Kirk gets his slice of the pie here. Since week 5, Travis, you look at the stats, he's seen only one game has he had less than 6 targets. You like that amount of target share right there. And you also look at the other side of the coin. He has had 69 air yards or more. Nice. In all but 3 games this year. So we always talk about us, fantasy players are obsessed with air yards, because if there's a lot of air yards towards your player, then the odds are that he could come down with a big play, and that's what they're figuring out, Kirk, but they're also using him around the line of scrimmage, which you like. So I like Christian Kirk here as a nice wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside if he can hit a bomb or 2 down the sideline. The last thing I want to say for the Arizona Cardinals, because I'm not really looking at the tight end, Dan Arnold, I think you can find something elsewhere. I want to mention, and it sounds a little goofy, but I'm going to double down. I know Big Travie said Larry Fitzgerald was saying Larry Fitzgerald could be a spot start last week. He had a couple close plays there. I think this is the week that you're going to want to play Larry Fitzgerald if you have to. I understand deep league. I'm not saying in a 10-teamer to go play Larry Fitzgerald, but you look at what Seattle does for the slot. They give up the most points to the slot position, and you just look at last week. I called the Josh Reynolds thing. Some of that was because I had been eyeing this matchup, but also Reynolds 10 targets for 94 yards. So I think in a PPR league, if you're in desperate mode, I think Larry Fitzgerald could see a nice game and potentially get in the end zone.
And there's no interest still in Dan Arnold here, as he's just kind of been non-existent for the offense.
Yeah, no, I don't have any interest in Dan Arnold this week. I hope he does well, but yeah, unfortunately, and Seattle is actually a pretty stout against the tight end position.
Well, let's talk about Seattle, Johnny, and we've got to talk about the dichotomy of Russell Wilson. He started off the year cooking. Now it seems to be like he's burning a couple dishes in the kitchen. What is going on with Russell Wilson? Is it time to panic?
I don't know if it's time to panic quite yet. I would definitely, you're definitely concerned. There are a lot of indications based off of Pete Carroll and what he's saying any football fan is going to tell you can't turn over the ball, let alone turn over the ball at the rate that Russell Wilson has been turning over the ball. Check this out, Travis. From weeks 1 to 3, he had 14 passing touchdowns on 103 attempts. Since then, weeks 4 through 10, he's had 14 passing touchdowns on 231 passing attempts. So you're seeing not only the turnovers go up, but you're also seeing the regression on the touchdown passes, which we thought, because he was at such an astronomical rate. Little did we think it would kind of crash this hard, Travis. But once again, it's Russell Wilson. You're gonna start him. I am concerned, though, that once they do get a little bit healthier at the running back position, which we'll dive into here in just a second, I do see a reality where, Pete Carroll does say, all right, we're going to simmer down Russell. We can't deal with these turnovers, especially in this competitive division where it's a 3-way tie. And then if they lose this game, which I think is a huge pivotal game with the division on the line, I think that you could see him really tone it down for the last month of games and kind of go back to the way that they were. That's just my intuition. I don't have a lot of hard analysis and data to indicate that they would do that. That's just my thought process.
There is some data to back it up, given that, Pete Carroll's always been a run-heavy coach, and Brian Schottenheimer as well in his history. So you could definitely see them switch with ease to that. I just wonder how that's going to fall on the ears of Russell Wilson. But I can't imagine the guy, he just keeps forcing throws. If that continues to happen, maybe we see that. I think this is going to be a great game for Russell Wilson to bounce back in, and I imagine that he'll get it done against that secondary in Arizona that's been struggling a little bit. Let's talk about that running game, though, Johnny, because Chris Carson's been banged up. Carlos Hyde's been banged up. We've seen this rotation of Travis Homer, DJ Dallas, even Alex Collins getting the carries last week. How do you see this one shaking up, and do you think either Chris Carson or Carlos Hyde will play this week?
I actually do think Carlos Hyde does play. I think that if you look at what Peach Carroll at what Coach Pete Carroll said, he was quoted saying he thinks that running back Carlos Hyde, who's dealing with the hamstring, will play in Week 11 against the Cardinals, and it's a little bit ahead. And that he is a little bit ahead of Chris Carson and that foot injury right now. So I do think that Chris Carson ends up giving it, Carlos Hyde ends up giving it a go. I don't know if he'll get the full workload. I could see them mixing in Alex Collins because he played, 48% of the snaps last week. He saw 11 carries. And you kind of saw DJ Dallas kind of dwindle away and getting only 5 total touches last week. So this is a little bit of a mess until they get until they get Chris Carson back and potentially Rashad Penny. There's still some hope that he could come back in the next couple weeks.
You're starting Chris Carson if he goes. What about Alex Collins if Chris Carson goes? Would you be fading Alex Collins? Are you interested in Alex Collins if Carson doesn't go? Or I'm sorry, if Hyde goes.
I know. I keep getting so if
I'm doing the same thing.
I know, right? So if Hyde ends up playing, I'm not playing Alex Collins. If Hyde it doesn't end up giving it a go, then I do feel comfortable in throwing Alex Collins in as a flex. I could see him definitely getting 11 to 15 carries in this game. Arizona isn't the worst at, defending the run. They give up top 13, or they are top 13 against running back. So it's not the greatest matchup, but I can definitely see with all the injuries and bye weeks, I can definitely see teams using him this week.
Downturn in Russell Wilson's, astronomical production has meant a couple bad weeks for Tyler Lockett and a bad week for DK Metcalf last week. How are you seeing these wide receivers going up against the Cardinals or up against the Seahawks here? Somebody's playing here.
Yeah.
The Cardinals are playing the Seahawks. How do you see the Seattle wide receivers going up against the Cardinals secondary?
So Listen, I know why. The reason why we're laughing here is because we have a show note doc, and I did this on purpose. I put we have DK Metcalf there, and we have a little like code indication of a 3-2-1 on whether we start players or not. And I put DK at a 3, which means that you sit DK, which is obviously not the case. I believe that might have been what caught Travis up a little bit, because you're definitely going to be starting DK Metcalf. Listen, I understand he only saw 4 targets last week, and it was against Ramsey. If you watch the tape, which we often encourage you to do if you're concerned on your players before you go and trade them away, watch the tape. There were a lot of situations where DK Metcalf was actually open, and for some odd reason, Russell decided, oh, I don't want to throw it on one-on-one coverage to my best receiver. I rather just throw an interception instead. So I think that could be corrected. I think there'll be opportunities this week against Patrick Peterson. Now, I know that's the other worry, right? Is you're like, well, the last time DK played Patrick Peterson, he only saw 5 targets. He only caught 2. He had a stinker game. It was his first one of the season. And that's why I jokingly put DK as a 3 here. But you're going to play him. Again, you're Arizona top 10 in points allowed to the wide receiver position. I expect this to be a shootout.
Yeah, well, you tried to get me there. How do you feeling about Lockett's knee here?
So he's listed as questionable. He was limited in practice today. It's definitely going to be something you're going to want to monitor. I love him. If he suits it up, which I do expect him to suit up because it is such a pivotal game. It is a divisional game, and look what he did last time he played Arizona. He had the game of his life. So and he usually plays really well against Arizona. So continue to monitor his situation. If he is out, obviously, don't play him. I think that DJ Moore would be, a flex option. David Moore would be a flex play in that case with Tyler Lockett out. We always talk about who do you attack in this Cardinals secondary. It's that secondary corner. So just keep an eye out for the Tyler Lockett situation. But you're playing him.
The tight end position. Yeah, I would agree 100%. The tight end position's been kind of a muddled situation with so many guys there. Anyone you're trusting here against Arizona?
No, it's not the greatest matchup. I know if somebody was here on the show, he'd go, but wait, and I get it. Greg Olsen would be the guy that you could talk about here. The nice thing is in a valley of death, a pit that is called the tight end position. I can say Greg Olsen has been pretty steady in the fact that he's seen 3 or more targets in all but 2 games this year. So you have that, but on the contrary to what a lot of people remember about the Arizona Cardinals, they are actually quite good against the tight end this year. They're bottom 8 in points allowed to the tight end position. So I would not get. I would not start Greg Olsen if I could. All right. Sorry, Travis, to cut you off. The only Thirsty Thursday guy I see on this entire slate here would be Larry Fitzgerald. Would be my only Thirsty Thursday player.
I think David Moore would get a little bit of thirst in there too. Should something happen, and almost like even if you were getting pretty desperate at wide receiver, I could see you with a banged up Lockett. Maybe you get tempted to put more in there.
Yeah.
But as always, check our rankings, which are up at the site, and make sure you follow our pages on all social media platforms by searching the Fantasy Whispers. And make sure, of course, you're subscribed to the YouTube channel by clicking that subscribe and notifications button today. For Johnny Game Time Hicks, I'm Big Travie, and we are the Fantasy Whisperers. We're out.
Peace.
Hey, you made it to the end of the video. If you like what you saw, go ahead and click subscribe. And if you want to watch more fantasy football content, check out one of these videos.